Okay, there we go. Okay, so thanks for joining me today for the interview. If you would, to get started, just tell us your name and your position here with the city.
My name is Eric Meyer. I'm a lieutenant on Engine 3 out at Station 3.
Okay. Tell us where you were on September 11th, 2001, and set the scene for us. How did you hear about it? What was your reaction? What do you remember about that day?
Okay, so September 11th, 2001, I was working for Stormwater Management Authority for Jefferson County. I was in the 2121 building downtown Birmingham.
Oh, wow.
We were on, I believe we were on the 11th floor, if I remember correctly, is where we were. I was a GIS technician. I was doing computerized mapping. We were there in the morning. One of the ladies had a TV that she always watched the news on, and the news started coming about the first tower being hit. So we all were, like everyone else, just caught off guard, concerned, worried about, what was going on. We kept watching the news. You see the second plane hit the second tower, and you really just start seeing the catastrophe that's playing out. In our building, the 2121 building, we had the FBI on the top floor. They immediately evacuated the whole building because there was a big concern about it wasn't just going to be the World Trade Center. It was going to be multiple buildings throughout the United States. Again, being the FBI, they're their number one priority for sure. So their building was a high target, they felt, and so they evacuated all of us. At that time, I was a volunteer with Rocky Ridge Fire Department. I would go in after I got off work at 5, and I would go in and would volunteer for the night. I had never dreamed of being a full-time firefighter at the time. I was going to be a computer guy and just volunteer when I could. So as soon as I got off work early that day, where was I headed? Well, I headed to the firehouse. They were amazed to see me there, because normally I wasn't there so early. They were doing the same thing that we had been doing, and that was watching the news. So I got in uniform and I started volunteering for the day. It was a quiet day for us, but the really hit home to me. One, when you started seeing the buildings collapse and you seeing all that going on, you really started thinking about, this is what we do. This is what I'm volunteering to do. But when we went to the grocery store that day, like we do every shift, trying to figure out what we're going to eat, and you got people crying in line, just talking to us. So that was, I'm a little bit emotional guy anyway. So that was very emotional there, when you're having people, going through emotional steps with you while you're standing in line trying to buy groceries. So, it really showed me the community support for ourselves as well as for, firefighters throughout the country. So that's where I was. And that's kind of how my day kind of played out.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Rocky Ridge, Vestavia, or like the town of Rocky Ridge somewhere?
Yes. So Rocky Ridge Fire Department is a county department that kind of covers the area right there by Vestavia. I mean, we were right there by right off Acton Road on Old Rocky Ridge Road. Yes.
Gotcha. Do you remember the rest of that day? You volunteered every night, or were you, so you stayed there?
I normally volunteered on a B shift. So we work A, B, and C shift, 24 hours. And so what I would do is I would just go in on B shift. That was the crew that I normally volunteered with. So every third day I would go in after I got off work and would stay the night and would run calls with them. And then in the morning, I would normally shift change was at 8. And I would get out of there a little bit early. One, because I volunteer, I can kind of leave when I please.
Yeah.
But I would get up, take a shower, and head on into the county. And that's what I would do. So the next day they had us come back to work at the county. We were only out for that afternoon on the 11th.
Yeah, gotcha. What impact did September 11th have on you? Did it change anything about your life day to day or in general?
You know, I look at things very simply. So I was already heading down that path. I was already volunteering with the firehouse. Again, I thought I was going to just continue to be a volunteer and to, be a computer guy. Did that alter my path? It didn't. Did it make some considerations, some thoughts I have? Yes. I mean, I was already dating my wife. I had thoughts of actually applying to FDNY. I had a college degree. I was, could get on and let's go, let's move forward. But there was, just some talks with my wife about, okay, should I do that or should we stay here? What kind of path should we go there? So no, it didn't really change much for me other than just, living through what, the community support, but then also, what we sign up for. But at the same time, you don't ever really get to live. I didn't live through it. I didn't participate in it, but I got to witness what had happened. And to be able to know that, that's what we're going to do. That's what I'm going to do. I can't imagine trying to climb that many stairs, First Commercial Bank's pretty tall already, but I couldn't imagine going up that far. But knowing that that's what we're going to do anyway, you just know that's in the cards. So
yeah. And I appreciate you saying that because one of the things that stood out to me the most in both of those books that I read was that some of the survivors who had passed other firefighters on those stairs said some of them got an order to leave and ignored it. They weren't going to leave, like, no matter what. Some of them didn't hear it. The communication system was messed up because of what had happened. And it was just there really aren't any words for it because, it was so unexpected. It's such a tragedy, but it's also just, you really can't, it's unbelievable still, even though I witnessed it, like you witnessed it. It's just hard to believe that we went through that. What about for training? Do y'all do training with the fire department that has to do with like anything that might have come up from September 11th?
We start, we've always been working on accountability, the ability to know, everyone's there. You saw in New York, they have their big boards inside the station, who was on duty that day, So, there's been processes to trying to make sure that you are truly accountable for everybody that's there, especially because of what can happen at shift change. I mean, you have out here at 3, we're a smaller station. You have 3 or 4 guys leaving shift and 3 or 4 guys coming on the shift. So you could have 8 guys here at Station 3 at 7 a.m. in the morning. And people tend to get here a little early. They tend to hang out a little bit longer. Again, we're a family. We hang out together here at the station is away from the station. So, had these calls and those calls did come in around a shift change, how easily guys can just jump on a truck and say, hey, I'm going to go help you guys out and we're going to get this thing done. So to make sure that you're truly paying attention to that guy who could have been getting off and you weren't aware that he was actually going to be on the truck. Communication has always been an issue with the fire service. We need to go into buildings. We need to go into the basement of the library and still be able to communicate. And even today, we're trying new things to be able to do that better. I think we've gotten a lot better since then. But there's still issues. There's still dead zones for us inside of buildings where we can't communicate. There's also a lot of communication issues between inner departments. So you have everything from, the Port Authority to FDNY to the PD in New York, they all weren't communicating with each other. And there's been a lot of national training across, departments or whatnot, trying to help build that communication so that if the Port Authority or if the fire department sees something, that everybody can try to get that notification.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that's even close to being perfect yet, but they're continuing to try to do that. Really, other than that, I mean, the girls were doing what we're trained to do, and that's to go up and to find the problem and try to mitigate the problem and get the people out. I mean, life safety and incident stabilization are, 1 and 2, and then property conservation. So, I mean, those are our goals.
Yeah.
And they were doing what our goals were. So, I mean, you remember back then, no one imagined. I mean, those buildings were built to withstand, a plane hitting them, just not a commercial jetliner right through them. So,
you know what I had forgotten about that the Boston Globe Journal has pointed out several times was that, particularly with the flights, the flight attendants after, I can't remember which was the first plane that hit, but after that hit, the flight attendants in the other planes that had been hijacked thought for a little while that they had been hijacked and they were going to land somewhere and be ransomed, because that's what always happened. And it never occurred to anybody that they would be used as missiles.
Correct.
And so it was terrifying to read, but it was also, I think it's one of those things that people who, I'm sure there are people that think, oh, if I had been there, I would have done X, Y, Z. And nobody would have done, nobody expected it. And, it's just absurd, unheard of, and shocking. So, but I do appreciate you telling us about that too, because another thing that I realized, especially after reading about the people who were trapped in the Pentagon, that nobody knows what it's like to be in a fire unless you've been in a fire. And so one of the survivors said after the initial explosion, she didn't know how long she was out. And when she came to, just blackness, so much smoke she couldn't breathe, like she was banging into stuff, like filing cabinets on top of printers. And, it's not like, oh, okay, there's a fire, let's orderly, let's all walk out of here. And so I think it definitely gave me an appreciation for, you might think you know what you would do, but you don't know what you would do, I mean,
correct.
Insane. Okay, my last question. What would you want to say to community members about September 11th? What would you want people to know about your perspective about it?
I'm going to say the motto, never forget. We have such a habit, we all have it, of forgetting over time. There's a saying that, you will always forget what you want to remember, and you'll never forget what you want to forget. And, this was a horrific time in American history. But it was also a time where you saw community truly coming together. You saw America truly come together. And we never need to forget that. You had 343 firefighters lose their lives. You had a lot of other people lose their lives. And, we never need to forget what happened that day, the horrible side of it, but we also never need to forget how the community and the country came together. I mean, the number of flags you saw flying on cars following September 11th, we've never seen that since. And we never need to lose that. And it's so easy to just say, oh yeah, that wasn't 100-year flood. That was 1,000-year flood. We'll be having another 1,000 years and we'll never see one of those again. And I mean, here we are in our second round of COVID. So we thought we were done with it. And it would just be to try to remember that, and try to always remember how important our community is, and then remember how important time is. Every day is important. Every day is great. We need to celebrate each other. We need to celebrate our families. We need to celebrate our neighborhoods, because tomorrow it might be September 11th again. And, who knows what's going to happen then. So if you get past today and you didn't celebrate it and you didn't, enjoy it, then I'm sorry.
You missed it.
You missed it.
Yeah. One of the things, and I've got to look this up because, I think, a woman who was seated. So the two or three of the bombers on the plane that flew out of Washington and crashed in Pennsylvania, they had flown from Maine the night before into DC, I think. So they had taken like a little commuter jet. And there was someone sitting next to them who I think later realized and was subpoenaed to speak before, I don't know, Congress, or I don't remember the exact scenario. But she said, if we treat each other badly, then Al-Qaeda has won. And I feel like that's something that is important for people to think about.
For sure.
Because it was just a blatant, it was, let's make war on these people. And so if we make war on ourselves, then we're just continuing that act.
Well, and the idea of terrorism is not 100% destruction. It's not calling other people to arms. It's not doing all that. What it is it's causing you to change your normal. It's causing you to change your day in and day out activity, which terrorizes your normal community, your normal environment. And once you make that change because of what they've done, then they're succeeding in what they're doing there. And it's the ability to, how do we get ourselves back to that? It seems weird right now to say get back to normal, because that seems to be a whole common concept with respect to COVID. But that's the idea through terrorism, is how do we get this group to get out of their normal, and then things will change. And terrorism is one. And if we can't let that happen.
No. Well, I really appreciate you sharing your story. And like I said, when I get to editing it and put something together, I'll send you a link to it. If you think of anything else that you wanted to mention, just give me a shout. I know you're a small crew out there, but if anybody else wants to chat with me, it gets kind of lonely up here in the library. So tell them to sign up.
I will. And that's what I'm going to try to get one of our older guys who's about to retire to do it, because he was actually,
please do.
I don't know if he was working that day or not. Our other two guys were little kids. So, it's kind of
which is okay too.
But I'll try to get some of them to sign up and go through it. Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Eric. I really appreciate it. I hope I get to come out there one day in non-COVID season and say hey.
All right. We'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye.
See you, Katie.